Welcome to Success in Doses. I'm your host, Saleh. This podcast is about the real journeys behind meaningful careers, the pivots, the risks, the moments of doubt, and the lessons that shaped who we become. Each episode, I sit down with people who are building impactful lives and careers, and we break down the experiences that help them get there. Because success rarely happens overnight, it happens in doses. Let's dive in on Becoming on Purpose. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Season 2 of Success in Doses, the season of Becoming on Purpose. This episode today is going to center on not just individual, but the collective wins and advancement. We are going to discuss what true Black advancement looks like beyond title and diversity statements, and how to pursue excellence without shrinking, overcompensating, or apologizing. And to help us kind of guide us through that conversation today, I could not think of a better person to have this conversation with than a person that I deeply admire and respect, and her voice and authority in this conversation. Our guest today is Dr. Chara Reed. She is a seasoned pharmacy professional with over 30 years of experience spanning retail, specialty, and infusion pharmacy. Her career includes 20 years in chain retail pharmacy, 2 years in independent specialty pharmacy, and 6 years in multi-specialty pharmacy and infusion leadership. Chara has been instrumental in expanding pharmacy services in Illinois' largest independent physician group, overseeing 3 retail pharmacies, 6 infusion centers, and a surgical center. This success has led her to Cencora, where she supports oral oncology operations across 29 states, eventually advancing to Senior Director for Strategic Accounts. Now focusing on GPO strategy for Specialty Practice Network GPO, Chara collaborates with manufacturers and sales teams to deliver impactful solutions to multi-specialty practices. A passionate advocate for diversity, she mentors minority pharmacists, serves on Midwestern University's Board of Trustees, and leads Pharmacist Women Networking Association. Chara's dedication to advancing pharmacy practice and empowering underrepresented communities continues to inspire and shape the industry. I am over the moon to introduce and welcome to the show, Dr. Chara Reed. Hi, Chara.
Hey, Sally, how are you?
Doing really, really well. I am really, really good today. I've been like bouncing all day long, looking forward to this conversation. I'm really hoping that like what I know to be true from all of the last few years of knowing you, that all of my listeners will have an opportunity to get like a fraction of that. So I'm very interested in that opportunity.
No, thank you so much for inviting me. It's honestly my honor. I look up to you and frankly, your sister, both of you are just pioneers in the healthcare space. So this was such an easy yes.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me. I wanted to start with, I always love like origin stories. When you think about your professional journey, what was your understanding of advancement when you think about like your starting point, what you believed advancement was? What did that look like or mean to you?
Yeah, so when I think back on, Chara as a baby pharmacist, right, over 20 years ago, and thinking about a career, I really didn't think about it from
Yeah.
any vantage point of advancing per
Yeah.
se,
Yeah.
right? I just thought I would work at the same company and I would probably retire, within the same company. I thought eventually there would be opportunities for advancement, but it really wasn't anything that was at the forefront of my brain because at that time, when I saw leaders, supervisors,
Yeah.
district leaders, and senior leaders in the organization, I just really was operated under the assumption that I would have to be there a really long time to get to
Mm.
that type of level, of my career, and that there would be so much I would have to learn because there's no way in the world that those people are in those positions without having this like really long tenured
Yeah.
background in the space. That's really how I looked at it way back then.
Yeah. And when did that change for you? Like, what do you remember? Was it a particular moment and or an experience maybe where you realized, like, I think this may be a little different than what I've perceived it to be?
Yeah, no, 100%. I definitely remember the moment when I realized that I had all the tools to advance my career. It was
Yeah.
very specific. It was at a certain organization I was working at, and I was in a meeting with senior leaders, and, I remember walking out of that meeting realizing that even these people in these seats of senior leadership are still trying to figure things out. And when
Yeah.
you realize that it doesn't matter what point anybody is in their career, there are just a lot of things you have to figure out, and they managed to get into those positions, which
Mm.
means in a lot of ways they managed to figure some things out. And I knew then I was like, "You know what? I'm actually smart enough to try to figure this out.
Uh-huh.
I think I have all the tools that I need in my tool belt, especially with my kind of value prop that I internally had used to be a leader. And I wasn't
Okay.
a leader in terms of like managing a whole ton of people, right? I had always had a manager type level of a role. And I knew that the skill sets that I developed as a very young pharmacist managing a pharmacy and a
Yeah.
pharmacy team were the exact very same toolkit that you could use to really
Yeah.
advance through and to that leadership pathway. I realized very quickly sitting in that meeting that, yeah, we're all just regular people trying to figure it out. And if they figured it out, why couldn't I?
That's so funny because I feel like I tend to put like a halo around people and I get like starstruck. And
Mhm.
I always try to tell like other pharmacists I mentor as like one of the things I feel like I learned really late was not being prepared with a response when people ask, "How can I support you?" I'm so fixated on making sure they know how much I love and respect and admire them that it never occurs to me that, hey, they could ask you and put you on the spot and say, "What are you working on? What do you have going on? How can I support you?" Right? So as you talk about this realization that like I already have all of the tools because I feel like young professionals, we honestly think that we have to get the credentials, we have to get the training, we have to get the certification. After that certification, there's power and meaning in that. But in your opinion, how can we learn to balance that piece on the journey of accepting the challenge of figuring it out is also a part of it?
We don't wanna discount all the extra things that,
Yeah.
people in healthcare and all the extra things
Yeah.
that are out there that we can help educate us and help train us in different areas. Those are all cool and they're important. However, I tell pharmacists very simple things like start reading job descriptions. And when you
Yeah.
read job descriptions, you will very quickly see that the most typically you're gonna find is if it's a very clinical role, you might
Mm.
find a board certification requirement.
Yeah.
If it's not a really traditional pharmacist role, you're only going to probably see level of degrees. So they'll
Yeah.
say advanced degree, bachelor's degree required, advanced degree preferred, or MBA preferred. And so when you start reading job descriptions, particularly just in general in healthcare, that don't necessarily require a PharmD, you will very quickly see that a lot of those extra things that we kind of feel like we need to like go grasp and like go do the next thing and do the next thing and grab the next certification quite often are not actually required.
Yeah. I'm curious about your take on where you see representation playing a role in how you've been able to ascend and why mentorship continues to be such an important component of your career.
Yes, I really was not the beneficiary of having a mentor, that could really help me advance in my career I have, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be what I didn't have because I knew how important sponsorship is. I know how important mentorship is.
Mm.
And sometimes when you're not the beneficiary of that, how do you make a change, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Sally, I'm just going to be honest. I'm a child of God, and God didn't make any mistakes when He put me in the family that He put me in, and He gave me the skin color that He gave me, ethnicity, and the race that He gave me. And when I think about, even when we think about our ancestors and the different things that they
Yeah.
truly had to go through. They
Yeah.
put their bodies on the line, right, to have a better life. I just feel like if they could do it and do it so confidently and so securely and literally quite often put their lives at risk to do
Absolutely.
it,
Yeah.
what would we be scared of?
Yeah.
We are on the like we're on their shoulders. These were giants in all different, aspects of having brown skin,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
not being, respected and
Mhm.
quite frankly, not that long ago
Yeah.
being hated,
Yeah.
and thought of as unequal and
Yeah.
all the different things they had to face, that gives me a lot of confidence. And that gives me a lot of confidence because if my family and the people and my ancestors, my great great grandmother was a slave, right?
Wow.
And she raised her daughter, who raised my grandfather, who only had a third grade education and was a sharecropper and was part of the Great Migration. And the things that I know that he faced,
Yeah.
being a Black man in this country, I think about, I have no fear
Yeah.
because I am truly on the shoulders of giants,
Yeah.
and I am going to make them proud.
Wow.
And it to again, so I didn't God didn't make any mistakes.
Yeah.
I just don't believe that, and I know that he put me here on this earth for a reason, and when you know what your source is,
Yes.
you have all the confidence in the world, and
Yeah.
there's no person that can shake that confidence that I have.
D
There's just nobody that can shake it. It's unshakable, and I don't know, like,
Yeah.
where that necessarily came from.
Oh, you
I
do?
it's my family and it's my
Yes. Yeah.
faith in Christ that allows me to know who I am, and
Yeah.
nobody is gonna take that from me. Nobody.
Okay, so real quick, if you're enjoying this conversation, go ahead and rate and review the podcast. It helps more people find the show and keeps the conversation going. Okay, so let's get back to the conversation. Love that. And I think like I have this conversation with my circle of friends often, and I'm like, the gift of heritage and the gift of history is that, yes, I know that where I am today, I am a product of somebody else's struggles. And so even when the thought of giving up or the thought of shrinking crosses my mind, I think about the fact that my presence in this space was my mother's dream, right? My presence in this space was my father's dream. And they didn't have that opportunity, but did everything they could to position me and my sisters so that we could be in this room. The least I can do now that I am here is to make sure that I show up for myself because there's no one coming. There's no one coming to do it for me. The work has been done for me already to make sure that this door would be open and make sure that my legs won't fail me and I would walk in. Now that I'm here is to just show up confidently. I love that. And I love that you're rooted in faith because I think that a lot of different people have different things they anchor themselves on. I think like my family, it's always been the same. It's just purpose, 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 placing everything that we do in the shadow of purpose to help because it's a huge source of courage, like you said. So, with that in mind, what do you define Black excellence to mean for you personally?
Girl, Black excellence for me is like, it's so deep, when I
Ah,
think about it, it's deep, and it is like several things. It's having your circle, your sister circle. You know what that is? That means, you got
yes.
your sister circle. It's so important to me to have that circle of really strong, confident women that are there to complement each other and not
Yeah.
to compete. We complement, we don't compete. We
Yeah.
don't need to compete. And that is like, wow, I don't even know that I could have survived some of the things that I've survived without that circle. But even more important, and why I love surrounding myself with really strong, other excellent Black females, is that we all reach a hand back. And
Yes.
sometimes reaching a hand back, you might get bit. It happened to me. I reached a hand back and I've gotten bit before. It's true, it's true. It's true, it happens, but you can't let that deter you from the mission,
Yeah.
right? The mission is that when our babies, our little brown babies, when
Mhm.
they get an opportunity to sit in some of the same rooms and seats and hopefully even be able to go beyond the
Yeah.
rooms that we've been able to go in, that
Mm.
we've hopefully made it a little bit easier for them because of the work that we've done in these spaces, right? And so that does require us to keep reaching a hand back and keep reaching a hand back and reaching a hand back and helping people without thought of what they can eventually do for me. I really don't think
Mhm.
about what someone else can do for me.
Mm.
When I'm helping someone out of the goodness of my heart, I'm helping them. Now what they then do after
Yeah.
that is not on me,
Yep.
right? That it's on them. You can only control yourself.
100%.
And so even though, yes, I certainly, had times where I'm like, "Man, that's kinda crazy. That was someone that I helped."
Mm.
It's okay. I'm not worried about it. I'm not keeping score. I'm not worrying about it because I know at the end of the day, the more people I can help, the better this world is gonna be for our little babies when it's
Yes.
to get into whatever field or career it is that they choose. Hopefully, some more doors have been opened and
Yeah.
that they can climb the ladder way past what we've even been able to accomplish.
That and I hope that no matter how many times your hand get bitten, that you don't give up on it because I love how passionate, and I know this because I know you, but I know how passionate you are for that group advancement, collective advancement, and reaching back to pull other people up or just whisper to them, check this out, check that out. Have you looked into this? Have you looked into that? So I hope that you stay encouraged. And I love the grace because I would be like, "Oh, how dare you?" I love that grace is baked in there where you look at it and you're like, "Hmm, how interesting is that? Okay, that happened. On to the next person." That is emotional maturity that I'm gonna keep working on. I'm gonna keep working on that little piece of it for myself. I wanted to talk to you also to touch on a little bit about overcompensation. I've struggled with this for a very long time. I think in clinical practice in particular, where a one sentence response would have sufficed. I constantly think like, no, you got to go deep and be as expansive as possible because it's not enough to just demonstrate competence, set the expectation to always exceed expectation beyond anything. And then when they come back and are surprised that I am as good as I said that I was, I don't celebrate it. It's actually hurtful. And so I was curious about how you've if you've ever, or any advice you may have about overcompensating as a person of color in corporate setting or just in our professional careers.
Yeah, no, overcompensation is definitely something that I've had to tackle because when, for whatever reason, we often feel like we need to over explain just
Yeah.
exactly what you said. We feel like we need to like really give all the information. Trust me, I'm not being a slacker. I'm not
Yeah.
like, like we're kind of coming from this presupposition. But the reason we're coming from that is because of how the world trains us to do that,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
And because when you don't give all the information, quite often you can be misinterpreted,
Absolutely.
misunderstood. You
Mm,
can, things can be taken out of context,
yeah.
based on what they already feel like they want to believe about you. And
Mhm.
here's the thing, when someone really wants to believe that you're coming from a place of negative intent, you can overcompensate all you want. It is not going to change anything. If they believe that your intent is not good and they're not going to give you the benefit of the doubt or that you're coming from a place of, I don't know, ill will, it really doesn't matter how much you say. And I mean, I could talk about this for like an hour. I won't. But what I will say is that you do have to get to a point. I don't know if it comes with age, life
Mm,
experience. I don't know what kind of gets us over that hump, but you have to come to a point where you have to realize you don't have to keep explaining yourself.
yeah.
And you literally just have to stop doing it. Because if someone doesn't want to believe you, I don't care if you write 2 paragraphs and put it on videotape what you were doing, they're not gonna believe you. And so I have been faced with having things come at me, well, what do you have to say about that? People feel this way about you. What do you have to say about that? And what I have to say about that is I'm not going to respond to how people feel because I'm not responsible for anybody else's feelings. And I'm not going to defend myself against how somebody feels about me. What you should be asking if you're actually a real leader, you should be asking them, why do they feel like that? Instead of asking me,
Me.
how do I feel about how they feel? Like that's ridiculous. I mean,
Oh my
am I at work or am I in the daycare? Like where am I at? Am I working with grown folks or am I working with
God.
5-year-olds?
Yeah,
5-year-olds are in their feelings all the
all the
time, every day, right?
time. All the time.
They're
Oh,
always in their feelings. It don't take much for them to be all up in their feelings, right?
yes.
Well, you know what? I can't help if a grown adult chooses to be all up in their feelings about something. I can't help it. I can't change it.
Yeah.
And I certainly am not going to try to explain it or defend myself against it.
Yeah.
It's a full stop. And so at some point, you kind of have to, and I think I've been just I just had to get to that point where you realize when someone truly doesn't want to believe you have good intentions, they're going to make everything that you do, they're going to see it always through a lens of you trying to do something bad or you
Yeah.
trying to get over on them or you try they're that's going to be their lens and you honestly can't fix that. That's a them problem. That is not a you problem. And so as black women, as excellent black women, we cannot deal with them problems. We
Yeah.
can only deal with our problems. I
Yeah.
can only fix myself. I cannot fix somebody else, and I
Yeah.
choose not to even try.
Yeah, and this leads perfectly into the next question I have because I can't tell you how many times the feedback I get is, well, your confidence can be at times intimidating. And I am unsure how to, number one, hear that and not just go off and be like, and how is that my problem? It's been a thing that's come, and I don't believe that the solution to that is to adjust my confidence level so that you could become more comfortable. And so I get the over explaining because I'm like, I really just want you to know that I'm rather sure about the angle I'm coming from and why this is the right direction. It's not because I want to like let you know that I am your boss or like you have to do what I say, right? So this is really important for me in just learning that like I have to quit.
Girl, I've heard those same words,
Yeah.
that it's not confidence, they call it arrogance. And here's what I will say to that
Yeah.
is one, absolutely love Deion Sanders' quote about this, where he says, when you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you play good. When you play good, your money's good. So kind of has this quote about this. And he's like, and it's not arrogance. He's like, it's confidence. It's not me
Confidence.
being arrogant. It's not, he makes this quote. He said, I'm not being arrogant. I'm confident.
Yep.
And part of that confidence, he takes it all the way back to like, look, I come in looking good.
Yeah.
And when I look good, then I feel good. And he's like, and when I feel good, he says he plays good. Well, good. Well, I'm gonna be producing some quality work, right?
Work.
My work is
Yes.
gonna be great when I feel good. So, but if someone is again, they're gonna see that like, and I think as black women, we get faced with that quite often. And to be frank, it's a racist
Yeah.
trope,
It is.
is what it is. Let's
Mhm.
call a spade a spade. It's a racist trope to feel like a black woman who's very sure of herself is arrogant and you don't even know me, right? The
At
fact
all.
no, at all,
At
okay? Am I confident? 100%. I'm very confident in what I know, but what I'm also confident is when I don't know something, right?
yes.
And so I'm confident in the not knowing too. I'm
Huh?
not going to be like saying I know something when I don't. I'm going to be asking a lot of questions so that I can learn something, right? And I'm
Yes.
confident in my not knowing.
Yes.
So I'll tell you
100%.
straight up, I can confidently tell you that's an area that I know nothing about. So please help me learn something
Yeah.
new.
Yeah.
You want to call that
Exactly.
confidence? Arrogance? I don't
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean, you're going to call it what you want to call it. But the fact of the matter is I'm confident in what I know and I'm
Mhm.
confident in what I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's what actually makes one, it makes a fantastic leader.
Yeah.
because there's no better leader than one they have their own self-confidence within themselves.
Yeah.
They're not trying to compete with you or their team or frankly anybody else because they're confident enough in themselves that they don't need to compete. And
Yeah.
frankly, half the time, people who think these things, I literally don't think about them at all ever, you know? And so I'm like, they think about me a whole heck of a lot more than I actually frankly think about them.
I'm always like, that's one of it's such a true statement though, because every time I'm hit with this and I'm like, "Who?" Like, I go I
Right.
become
Yes, I be thinking back like, "Who? Wait, what?"
when?
I'm confused, like, "Y'all, there's a whole bunch of y'all thinking about me today this."
And I'm like, I am living rent free in your head. And meanwhile, I'm
Right,
just rent free. I'm just focused on getting to my next cup of coffee. Like, where is the coffee at? But
girl.
there appears to be a full dissertation taking place regarding and
Behind the don't even
this.
know about they got a whole PhD on you, girl.
Oh,
They wrote a whole paper.
and I love this conversation because I think that one of the things that I really, really love also, because I know that I suffered this very early in my career, is the isolation. I truly felt like the insecurities that I had kind of internalized and things that were projected onto me and people's limiting self belief that I took ownership of, very isolating. We don't want to talk about the fact that we feel like we are at it alone. You touched on the tribe component a little bit. I really would just like you to give us an idea about really how instrumental it is to build a support structure because career growth can be a heck of an isolating career. So, in your experience or what you've experienced and observed, some advice you can give all of the young professionals just starting out about how to effectively really build that community for their growth and this journey that is going to be really long.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's vitally important, and building a tribe, is risky in some ways, right?
Yeah,
Because you have to have some discernment,
yeah,
truly about who you can trust and who you can't trust, right? And
100%.
again, we've all faced the other side of thinking we could trust somebody and then quickly finding out that we can't,
Yeah,
right? So that's where that discernment comes in, right? And you don't have to display all your cards to everybody and to just
true.
anybody. You need to be
Fact.
smart about that. I think it's important to lift others within that tribe. Like it shouldn't just be about tearing people down or even frankly complaining about all the things, although we for sure have to have a space to vent because you do need to be able to sometimes get some of these things out because they're incredibly frustrating and
Very.
frankly very unfair
Mm.
in a lot of ways, but you can build a tribe. The tribe sometimes all looks like you and sometimes they don't all look like you. It really just depends, but you really need to be discerning about that because not all skin folk are kinfolk, girl.
Talk about that.
So
Talk
you
about
gotta
that.
right. You have to be discerning and you have to be careful. You have to remain professional,
Always.
until you have really built that trust because as we know, healthcare is a really, really small world. What goes around comes around. You never really know
Mhm.
when you're going to be in a meeting. I mean, it happens to, I can't even tell you how many times in the last like 4 years, I have walked into a meeting and somebody in the room said, I know who you are. I know who you are, Chara. I follow you on LinkedIn or
Uh-huh.
I used to call on you. I it happens to me all the time. Almost
Yeah.
every time I go to a professional meeting or I go sit down in a room, somebody has interfaced with me in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Okay. Many times that has been in person when I was in practice and they
Yeah.
called on me. They were a drug rep in a role, a more entry level role in their organization, and they have ascended into a C-suite level role. No
Wow.
joke, it's happened to me. And I walked in and I did not remember the person, and that's okay because when you're a pharmacy director, you meet a lot of people. But
Yeah.
the one question I asked was, did you have a good experience working with me? Was it a good experience? Like, I want to ask that question because I want to know because
Yeah.
I think I gave everybody a good experience when I was
Yeah.
giving people my time
Yeah.
back then. And he said, absolutely, you were great. I loved working with you. and that like just reminded me that it's important to be a nice person.
Yes.
Sometimes receive, you give with what you receive
Absolutely.
what you give. That's important, but just be discerning. And the one thing you never have to be discerning about is being a nice person. You can always just be a nice person. That's never gonna, hopefully, should not turn around and, bite you. But
No.
yeah, just be nice and be discerning about building the tribe. The tribe is important. Hopefully it could be people in your same industry, it can be people in a different industry, it can be people
Mm,
that look like you, that don't look like you. It
yeah.
could be people that you work directly with, that you don't work directly with, but you have to put in the effort. And one of the things that I feel is so important is that for a man to have friends, he must show himself friendly, right? That's a biblical
Mm,
principle that the Bible teaches us about friendship. And it tells
yeah.
you if you want to have good friends, you
Yeah.
need to be a
Be a
good
good
friend
friend.
first.
Yep.
Right. And so you need to make sure you're not betraying confidence, that you're giving good advice, that
Yep.
you're being a good listening, a sounding board for somebody. And frankly, that a good friend will tell you when you go in the wrong direction too, right? That's the biggest sign of a good friend. They're not just a yes man. They're
No.
like, nah,
Hold up.
we need to be looking at that a little bit
Friendly.
differently,
Yeah.
and they'll have those hard conversations. And I know a
Yeah.
true friend, when I have a really good friend, they will correct me,
Yep.
right? And then I know, like, okay. And it's like good advice. It ain't like
Yeah.
that shady stuff. Well, I don't know why you're so sensitive. And that really wasn't, no, girl. It's gotta be solid, real advice.
Yes.
Don't be tripping.
Yeah.
uh,
Don't
Help
sidestep
me.
it.
No sidestepping. Help me
Yeah.
be better. Help me. I have times where I will get an email that makes me hot, that lights me on fire, and you wanna be a keyboard, like, you wanna get on that keyboard, and you just wanna go at it, right? And I pause, and I have taught myself, don't respond.
Yeah.
But what I do sometimes, one step further, I pick up the phone and I phone a friend, and I say, "Okay, help me think
Process.
through this. This
Yeah.
is what I said, this is what they said, and
Yeah.
I do need to respond, but I wanna do it in a way that does not inflame the situation,
Yeah.
that stays professional and respectful, even though what I maybe received wasn't respectful,
Yep.
and so I pick up the phone and I get good advice about
Yeah.
how to handle that and not to inflame things and not to make things worse. So a good friend will be able to help you through those times and
Yeah.
take down. We need to bring this back down from 60 to 0,
Yeah, it's so
you
true.
know?
And it's like one of the biggest mentoring points for students. And I tell them, and I'm like, you go on that rotation, and that preceptor is grossly unprofessional. The expectation is that you will mirror and model for them what they are not showing you. You cannot match their energy. It
Nope.
doesn't, I don't care what just transpired. If you cannot have that conversation with that preceptor, that's what the school is there for. You need to escalate the situation for someone to mediate that conversation. But you believing that in that moment, what you need to do is to match energy, somebody has steered you the wrong way. So I just love that that's being reaffirmed here, that it's a life hack, really.
Yeah.
It's a life hack.
Mhm.
Like, not responding in the moment, putting things on pause and calling somebody that's going to talk you off the ledge, and also just validating the feeling, right? And saying, like, that's way out of line. That's completely inappropriate. They are not, you're not crazy for thinking and feeling what you're feeling, but still, we need to figure out a way to redirect the energy. That's excellent advice. This is a question I'm going to ask everybody, and is, what is one dose of advice that has changed the way you approach success or leadership?
The biggest thing that I can say is you don't need a title to lead. You can be a
Yeah.
leader in a lot of different ways, and it doesn't require you to be a people leader to be a leader. It doesn't require a big fancy title. You can find ways in which to lead very, very early on in your career without even having the title. So it's important to learn those ways in which you can lead without the title. And those are life skills that you will take and you will be able to demonstrate and
Yeah.
actually be able to articulate that
Mm.
transferable skill for when you are going to move into, that big title or that leadership role where you're going to have people reporting to you. You really want to have already had experiences where you've taken initiative to lead and be a leader. Leading is, even to what you just said,
Yeah.
it's a leadership skill if someone comes at you left
Yeah.
and you don't match that energy.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of self-control, and
Mm.
it does require you to tap into that leadership skill. So even though a leader may not be acting like a leader,
Yeah.
that's okay. That's on them. You can always remain professional, and leadership is knowing the right steps to take to handle those types of situations.
Absolutely.
That is demonstrating leadership,
Yeah.
and being able to see those things and articulate that this is how I chose to lead in a situation with an unprofessional leader. This
Yeah.
is what I chose to. I had to escalate it. I had this, or I had to do that, or I had to de-escalate it.
Yeah.
I had like a lot of ways. And so the one little piece of advice is, I would say there's a lot of ways to demonstrate leadership skills. You don't need to wait for people to do it. Honestly, if you're waiting to get the title to do it, is you maybe aren't equipped yet to be a leader.
Yeah.
You should have training leadership skills and every point, including being a student.
Yeah.
There's ways to.
100%. The opportunities are almost overwhelming. It's a matter of like paying attention because if you're paying attention around you, there is something you absolutely can take ownership of, make it your thing, and do it really, really well to the point where people will really take notice because it requires like being dialed in on the day to day to recognize what could be improved all around us. I can't thank you enough for doing this, but I really want my listeners to learn more about the Pharmacist Women Networking Association and what it is and how did that come about with all of the things you've got going on already? How did the Pharmacist Women Networking Association come about?
Yeah, no, I love this question. It's my favorite thing to talk about. So, pharmacist women was just a little, idea, harebrained idea I had back in 2018 when I was looking for a place that I could focus on women networking with each other. Because one of the things I didn't know when it was going to happen, but I knew that it would happen. I had a thought one day when I was at one of my organizations that I worked at, and I said, this job's going to change my life. And I bet the next job that I get, someone's going to call me and I'm going to get the job because someone's going to call me. And I just thought
Wow.
that one day. And I knew that the only way that would happen would be if I like was really strategically and purposefully networking. Right.
Absolutely.
And networking, not just like going to mixers and
Yeah.
going to like things and like passing out your card. But networking in my mind was really about relationship building.
Yeah.
And I thought like, oh, I've actually been networking. I've been spending time with people in this job. I've been spending time with all sorts of different people, trying to understand what their needs are, trying to collaborate with them on different initiatives. And that was actually like real networking. It wasn't just me going someplace and passing out my card and saying, "Hey,
Mhm.
let's connect on LinkedIn." That's not super effective. I did eventually get a call to
Yeah.
get a job. And man, getting a phone call for a job makes things like
Yeah.
1,000 times easier to get
Mhm.
in, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that's a true story and that happened, and I just had seen a vision of that happening to me, and it did. And I thought, well, how can I help facilitate this for other people, for women? And let me create this organization. And it wasn't like I knew what it was all going to be, but what it has turned out to be is a place for women to collaborate together, to network. We meet every month in Chicago. We've
Yeah.
built so many friendships. So many women have gotten jobs. People come up to me and they tell me these like stories of how they got a job through Pharmacist Women, which is like super cool. But the
Yeah.
most exciting thing that we're doing is next year, we're going to host our inaugural conference here in the Chicagoland area. It's going to be a 2.5 day conference. We have our conference space secured. We're going to start having true like a conference that allows people to fly in.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. Like there's a lot of big things on the forefront of this little
Yeah.
baby idea that I had back in 2018 that has now grown just literally on a Facebook page to 12,000 women who go
Wow.
in there questions and they help each other. And my whole thing was I knew I could only help so many people
Yeah.
individually, one by one.
Yeah.
Collective, we can help a lot of people together. And I knew
Absolutely.
that that was going to be more impactful and more meaningful than me just trying to like one offs try to help and
Yeah.
mentor people. But
It's back to that community component of building, growing, and sustaining. To go from just an idea you thought you had to 12,000 women being in the network, now there's a conference. We need this announcement kind of ASAP because folks got to block the time off
yeah,
their calendar because I'm not going to be looking at that unfolding from a distance and liking a post. I'm going to be right there talking
oh
about
my gosh,
what the
you mean so
experience
much to
like.
me.
I'm like, I'm bugging out because I have to be there. I have to be there. And anything that you need at all from me, you know, you've got it.
Yeah, the future.
A conference like this is for people that are thinking about 1 to 3 and 3 to 5. They will see the value and why being in a space like this with so many women that are in it, not thinking about getting in it, but they're in their careers and being around them and learning that opportunity. I can't imagine how transformative that's going to be. I am also just incredibly grateful for your time, for saying yes, for being supportive, but sincerely for being you and continuing to show up for those of us that really do look up to you and pull your name up as examples of what it is to be unapologetic about the who part of how we show up and then letting the what and the how just speak for itself. I admire and respect you and thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope everybody knows that you can go find Dr. Chara Reed on LinkedIn. You can
That's
also,
right.
Women Pharmacists Networking Association is definitely on LinkedIn as a page as well. We thank you so much for joining us today, Shara.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was
Yeah.
fun.
So now that it's just us, I wanted to take a moment to reflect on what we learned today. I mean it when I say that Shara is one of the voices in the profession of pharmacy that I respect deeply, but also as a person. Shar is the example that I think of when I'm struggling as a young mom and still have that fire in my belly, very ambitious, feel like I really still want to go after all of the things that I have had the audacity to dream about. I can still set out and make those things happen. I think this episode today and what I hope is a huge takeaway from for you is that representation is not just because we need more statements or we need to toss more different versions and types of people in a department. But the power of representation continues to be the fact that when people see others that look like them succeeding, it quietly gives them permission and courage and a lot of hope in wanting to and aspiring to doing the same thing for themselves. I am really appreciative of the fact that you all, if it was the very first time that you met her and you got to hear her story and her journey and the way in which she is contributing to helping more women and more people in the profession overall get to have the careers that they absolutely deserve. That is the biggest gift that I hope this episode gave you today. As always, I am so grateful that you choose me to start your Monday with. Tune in again next week, Monday, for a brand new episode of Success in Doses. And this season, we are focusing on becoming on purpose. Have a wonderful week. Bye. If this episode gave you something to think about, something to hold on to, or even something to act on, I want to ask you for one more thing. Take a moment to rate and review the podcast. It feels really small, but it's actually one of the biggest ways you can support this show. It helps more people find these conversations and become part of this community we're building right here on Success in Doses.